A very good morning to you all. I welcome you to day 3 of the second Diamond Open Access Conference. Session 5 that I'll be moderating will be focusing on innovations that should be mainstreamed to support the advancement of Diamond Open Access. Please make sure you have your translation headsets because 2 of our speakers will be speaking, one in Spanish and one in Portuguese. Pluto Journals and African Books Collective asked me to mention during this session that they would be launching an innovation called the African Journals Initiative. They will be working with a growing community of no-fee, Diamond Open Access social science and humanities journals based in African universities, supported by Science Open and JSTOR. You can get more information about this initiative online or contact David Mills, the Director of African Books Collective. Today, our 5 carefully selected speakers will each have 15 minutes to make their presentations. These diverse and knowledgeable speakers come from Costa Rica, Australia, Angola, and South Africa. Please feel free to read more on their bios, which are available on the conference website. I will ask Ms. Andrea Campos to start us off. She serves as an academic advisor in open science at the National University of Costa Rica. Andrea, please, the floor is yours. She will be presenting in Spanish.
Hola, buenos días. Primero quiero agradecerle a la organización el esfuerzo que hizo porque nosotros podamos hablar en nuestros idiomas. Creo que los fundamentalistas en ciencia abierta, y yo me reconozco como una de ellas, agradecemos muchísimo que podamos hacer este sueño de que podamos estar muchas lenguas acá y bueno, y también a la organización por la oportunidad de poder estar acá, algunos que tuvimos que cruzar el océano y muchas otras cosas más. Yo estoy sumamente agradecida. Yo voy a exponer el caso de mi universidad, incluso con algunas otras experiencias de cómo protegemos las revistas en acceso abierto no comercial o acceso abierto diamante. Si hablo muy rápido me dicen, estoy tratando de darle espacio a los intérpretes. Bueno, ayer Saray Córdoba se me adelantó con algo de esta información, pero me parece importante volver a retomar cuán han sido importantes las revistas científicas en el contexto latinoamericano y para las universidades. Para nosotros es importante tener nuestras propias revistas porque han sido espacios para compartir el conocimiento, espacios para que autores de otros países puedan conocernos también, y es un espacio de encuentro entre nosotros como universidades y el mundo. También ha sido una oportunidad para poder circular nuestra ciencia, una ciencia que ha sido invisibilizada, que eso lo hemos hablado muchas veces, y retomo las palabras de 2 de mis amigos acá, Eduardo Aguado y Ana María Cheto, y Octavio Alonso también, que dicen que, y doña Saray ayer también lo dijo, las revistas son sostenidas por las universidades y lo hemos logrado durante muchos años. ¿Por qué es importante generar modelos de protección para las revistas? Porque yo en español nosotros usamos una frase que es como organizar la casa, ordenar la casa, determinar la responsabilidad de los departamentos internos de las universidades para poder hacernos cargo de la revista que estamos creando. También es importante porque nosotros también tenemos que ver quién nos va a dar soporte financiero o quién va a adquirir ciertas responsabilidades. Y esto porque para nosotras, ya lo dije en el anterior slide, para nosotros las revistas es súper importante. Y desde mi sentir les voy a decir, aquí se resume casi cerca de 20 años de mi trabajo. Tengo la fortuna aquí de tener una de las editoras de mis revistas y ahí les cuento ahorita cómo ha sido el proceso para poder hacer este sueño realidad. Para construir la metodología y poder hacer este modelo de gestión de revistas, nosotros partimos de que el protagonista de esta historia son los editores de las revistas. Y entonces ellos dirigen o han dirigido el proceso de construcción de este modelo. Iniciamos con grupos focales para que ellos nos guiaran de cómo querían y necesitaban que fueran establecidas las pautas del modelo para proteger las revistas. Trabajamos con un grupo de muchos especialistas internacionales. Aquí hay muchísimos de los que nos acompañarán para poder construir este modelo. Capacitamos, y ahorita les voy a contar un poquito de a quiénes capacitamos, porque nosotros no solo capacitamos a los editores de revistas, por ahí les he compartido a algunos de ustedes que algo importante es también capacitar a las autoridades. ¿Por qué es importante capacitar a las autoridades? Porque ellos son los tomadores de decisiones, los que generan las regulaciones, pero también los que dan el financiamiento de las revistas. Es necesario que esto que yo estoy hablando es en el contexto latinoamericano. Nosotros casi no tenemos oportunidades de tener financiamientos externos. Si los hay, son bienvenidos, pero si no, somos muy creativos y ya logramos ver cómo hacemos para sostener nuestras propias revistas. También estudiamos otros modelos, hicimos cruces de información con gente de no solo de Latinoamérica, sino de otros lugares del mundo para poder construir este modelo. Y otra de las cosas más importantes, y yo resalto, esto ha sido un proceso colaborativo y horizontal. Nace, como les dije, del grupo de los editores, pero también del trabajo conjunto, por ejemplo, con ingenieros informáticos, con bibliotecólogas también, con las autoridades y con otros actores que son importantes dentro de el trabajo con las revistas. Esta es la estructura que soporta la revista dentro de mi universidad. Entonces, por ejemplo, en Latinoamérica es muy normal que las revistas científicas sean dirigidas desde las vicerrectorías de investigación o direcciones de investigación. Hay otros modelos, pero esto es como la normalidad en Latinoamérica y no es la excepción en mi universidad y en Centroamérica y Caribe. Entonces, por ejemplo, quienes dan soporte desde un nivel macro es la vicerrectoría de investigación y la parte de infraestructura tecnológica es propia de la universidad y lo asume la dirección de tecnologías. ¿Por qué es importante? Bueno, nosotros creemos que el contratar servicios externos no es posible y no es adecuado porque siempre hemos luchado para que toda la infraestructura tecnológica y la responsabilidad de la infraestructura tecnológica quede en manos de la propia institución y no depender de terceros. También interviene el Departamento de Publicaciones e Impresiones. Ellos se encargan de diagramar todas las revistas y por eso no pagamos ya terceros. El Departamento de Proveeduría, en caso que nosotros tengamos que contratar eventualmente algún servicio, por ejemplo, de interpretaciones, pero usualmente utilizamos los recursos internos. Y por ahí la oficina de vinculación externa, si hay algún convenio que va a traer algún tipo de ayuda económica. Esta es como la estructura interna de cómo soportamos o cómo le damos soporte a las revistas dentro de la universidad. Este modelo se basó, como les decía, en la escucha de la comunidad universitaria y Se basa en 6 principios para manejar nuestras revistas. El primero es acceso abierto. Es obligatorio que todas nuestras revistas estén en acceso abierto en vía diamante o en acceso abierto no comercial. En la pertinencia, en que tengan autonomía a la hora de trabajar en sus espacios editoriales, la sostenibilidad, la calidad y la reciprocidad. Este es un ejemplo de la estructura de una revista en la universidad también, porque es importante saber la estructura a nivel de la universidad, pero también dentro de la revista. Y esto es muy, si ustedes van a cualquier otro país, es muy parecido así en cualquier país de Latinoamérica. Este es el ejemplo de mi colega que está acá de la revista Educare. E incluso que el año pasado en Toluca lo hablábamos, cómo intervienen los estudiantes a la hora de ayudarnos dentro de las revistas. A los estudiantes, y ahorita lo vamos a ver, se les da siempre también becas y se les pagan becas para que puedan no solo seguir estudiando, sino reciben una remuneración económica para que ayuden. Y otros actores que también intervienen dentro de la revista. Cada revista puede tener su propia estructura, en el caso de mi universidad y también he visto en otros espacios, pero solo quería que ustedes vieran pues cómo sostenemos en Latinoamérica una revista. Y yo el año pasado usé una frase que decía que las revistas en Latinoamérica, los editores es como… soy la secretaria, soy la diagramadora, soy la ingeniera. Bueno, con este modelo nosotros tratamos de que el editor se quede solo haciendo edición de revistas y el resto de la universidad con sus mismos recursos pueda darle soporte y que le quite esas otras tareas. En ese sentido, durante años, les decía, creamos una regulación interna avalada por el órgano superior, que es el Consejo Universitario, y yo solo rescato 3 cosas importantísimas. Para mí todo es importante, pero yo quisiera contarles que hacemos obligatorio que todas las revistas sean en vía diamante. No se puede crear una revista que no sea en esa vía. Hay una realidad en Latinoamérica, es que la mayoría de los editores trabajan en forma de honoren. Eso lo quisimos cambiar y es lo justo. Entonces, todos los editores tienen que ser profesores, tienen que tener experiencia en investigación y formación en edición, que nosotros les vamos acompañando. Y les vamos acompañando, por ejemplo, con Latindex, con Realic, con Amelica y otros socios. Y esto es algo que cambia porque es la realidad y es súper dura en Latinoamérica, pero es así. Y este modelo, como les voy a contar ahorita más adelante, está siendo trasladado a otras universidades de Centroamérica y Caribe, en donde estamos tratando de compartirlo para que ellos lo mejoren y ojalá lo superen, pero que establezcan modelos donde protejan las revistas diamante. Dentro del proceso de la revista, de gestión de revistas, nosotros tenemos, por ejemplo, que cada revista se evalúa cada 2 años por expertos internacionales, tienen un plan por 6 años. Nosotros tenemos instrumentos para que los evaluadores vengan y revisen si la revista está cumpliendo lo que se propuso. También hay un plan institucional de todas las revistas a 6 años, donde en conjunto, en grupo, ellos dicen hacia dónde quieren ir en grupo en los siguientes 6 años y qué necesitan. Y esto va alineado con una estrategia institucional propia, ¿verdad? Y una estrategia de ciencia abierta que tiene mi universidad y que va de acuerdo con una estrategia nacional de universidades públicas que también hay. Entonces, todo está coordinado, no solo a lo interno de las revistas, como grupo, como universidades, y hay otra estrategia un poco más grande que doña Saraya ayer la contó, que es la articulación de 28 universidades de 9 países de Centroamérica y Caribe. Todo esto que les estoy contando está público y también lo pueden descargar del repositorio institucional como debe ser. Está en español, yo sé que ahora hay herramientas para poder traducirlo, pero esperamos en diciembre, a finales de este mes, tenerlo en español y portugués. Esto es algo importante, nosotros no hemos encontrado en Latinoamérica al menos y en lo que hemos buscado los costos reales que implica hacer una revista y aquí los publicamos, cuánto gana un editor, cuánto gana, cuánto se le ayuda a los estudiantes, cuánto implica, cuánto se invierte en que los estudiantes puedan colaborar como compañeros en las revistas. ¿Cuánto vale para la universidad la diagramación en XML, EPUB, HTML, PDF? La universidad saca 7 tipos, por ejemplo, de formatos. Y aquí quise quitarle una diapositiva a mi colega y amiga Ariadna, porque con esto ustedes pueden corroborar lo que se le bajaría de costos a una universidad que utilice Marcalic. Entonces, este es el costo real de mi universidad y aquí está el costo de Redalic y lo que se bajaría, ¿cómo se llama el costo? Por eso es que para nosotros Redalic y otros socios pero han sido sumamente importantes porque nos disminuyen, entre otras cosas beneficiosas, los costos. Yo rescato y espero contarles que, por ejemplo, con Centroamérica y Caribe, yo tengo un grupo centroamericano de ciencia abierta, donde cada universidad tiene un líder formado en ciencia abierta, y Redalic ha sido importante para nosotros, no solo para los líderes de ciencia abierta, sino para las revistas, porque nos han dado muchos beneficios, como el entrenamiento, como la capacitación, ha permitido que nuestras revistas sean más visibles, que sean evaluadas y se les retroalimenten qué es lo que tienen que mejorar. La posibilidad de tener software gratuito para nuestras universidades y nuestros institutos de investigación, el acompañamiento que para nosotros ha sido súper importante y por supuesto que han hecho que nuestras revistas tengan más prestigio porque son constantemente evaluadas. Y en ese sentido vuelvo a retomar, por ejemplo, que para Centroamérica y Caribe, esto ha permitido, no solo para mi universidad, ahora sí, para todas las 28 universidades con las que yo trabajo, bajar los costos de producción, ya les conté y ustedes ahí van a poder comparar, que no necesitamos una compañía, un tercero para poder tener nuestros propios recursos, sino que esto es coherente también con las luchas que hemos venido haciendo no solo desde Latinoamérica, sino que el recurso quede dentro de las universidades, que no dependamos de un tercero para poder hacer contrataciones. Porque, ¿qué pasa? Es muy frecuente que en Latinoamérica un año podamos tener dinero y el otro año ya no hay. Entonces, es mejor consolidar los recursos, por ejemplo, informáticos, de formación, de bibliotecólogas, de editores, en nuestras universidades y no depender de una empresa. Una maravilla que hemos tenido también, y pongo el ejemplo de Redalic, es la cooperación solidaria entre las infraestructuras abiertas y las universidades, en donde no media pago de por medio, y eso es valiosísimo para nuestra región. Nosotros no tenemos que pagarle absolutamente nada a Redalic y de forma colaborativa nuestras revistas universitarias han crecido de forma importante en muchos aspectos debido a esta colaboración. Esto yo sé que no se ha visto en otros espacios, en otras regiones, pero bueno, ojalá que si pudieran copiar algo bueno de nosotros, yo creo que eso es un aspecto maravilloso que pueden copiar o ver de América Latina. Y luego, ya para ir como finalizando, les iba a contar que esto es parte de nuestro ecosistema de ciencia abierta, la colaboración entre universidades, entre regiones, entre instituciones e iniciativas. sin pago de por medio, como les decía, para poder sacar adelante, ¿cómo se llama?, nuestras revistas. Específicamente, y ya nada más para finalizar, lo que les decía, este modelo que brevemente les conté, porque ahí resume más de 20 años de trabajo y es muy presuntuoso decir que lo resumí en 10 o 15 slides. Estamos tratando de crear modelos así en este momento en toda Centroamérica, en donde se obligue que las revistas sean diamantes, ya son, pero lo que queremos ahora sí es oficializarlo. Tenemos y pensamos que las revistas son patrimonio de la humanidad y las estamos protegiendo por eso. El trabajo colaborativo definitivamente optimiza los recursos en una región que no tenemos muchos recursos económicos. Y lo que cierro nada más, me voy a brincar una diciendo que cuando se capacita, se tiene que capacitar a todos los actores, desde autoridades, desde abogados, desde ingenieros, para poder hablar el mismo idioma. Y muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for your excellent presentation. I would now like to call upon Professor Lucy Montgomery and Dr. Huang. I think they are doing a joint presentation. You have 15 minutes. The interpreters are pleading that we speak slowly so that they can handle the interpretation. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Carl and I have a tag team strategy with our presentation. We have put our slides onto Zenodo, but we haven't yet updated them with the last minute changes that we were making about 10 minutes before we came on. So if you go back after this presentation, we'll refresh them. So my name's Lucy Montgomery. I'm a Professor of Knowledge Innovation and a Dean of Research in the Faculty of Humanities at Curtin University. Curtin University is in Perth, Western Australia, and it sits on the unceded lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people, who have lived and loved and laughed and learned, as our Vice-Chancellor likes to say, on the land that our university now occupies for 60,000 years. So one of the great privileges of working at Curtin is the opportunity that our generation now have to be part of some very serious work that's taking place on thinking through what it means to be making our institution more inclusive and more just, and thinking about how we can work in partnership with the traditional owners of the land that we occupy, who are still in Perth and who are in fact now very keenly engaged in helping to shape what we do and how we deliver it at Curtin University. So in addition to being a Dean of Research for a Faculty of Humanities, I'm also co-lead of the Curtin Open Knowledge Initiative, which we're here to talk about today. And the Curtin Open Knowledge Initiative sits within the Centre for Culture and Technology, which is a thoroughly interdisciplinary, very humanities critical research centre, which includes researchers who are doing work on Indigenous language and knowledge preservation and revival and brokering. So we have Indigenous scholars, we have some fantastic gender researchers and feminist scholars who do amazing critical work. And I think that in my time, when I previously was the director of the centre, the motto of the centre was "fuck fascism and fight the police." So it's a proper deep humanities, a little bit punk, critical cultural theory type research centre. And so this project, the Curtin Open Knowledge Initiative, really has been very deliberately located within that centre, and in its great tradition of sort of being difficult, we decided that what we needed was a a really serious data project that was led by the critical humanities. So we were tired of being told that we could be useful to the sciences, and we decided that we should start making some data scientists useful to us, and this is the result of that effort. And Carl and I have been aware that we are going to have limited time for this presentation, so we came up with a strategy and we thought through what are the two things, oh my goodness, my slide's not progressing, I'm really sorry, that we want everyone to get out of this presentation today. And the two things that we came up with are that we really hope that everyone who leaves this presentation will have downloaded or accessed online the Curtin Open Knowledge Dashboard. So we have a fantastic resource that Carl's going to talk about, and we really want people to know about it and to use it and to provide us with feedback on it. And the second thing that we really want this meeting to really sort of take away from our talk is the importance of ensuring that tools and infrastructure that are being used to support conversations about open research need to allow diverse perspectives to be included and made visible. And that can be baked into the way we create our projects, it can be baked into the way we set up our data architectures and the way we think about the tools and the infrastructures that we're building for the future, that future diverse, potentially a little bit punk research groups are going to come along and use. So we're really excited to share this particular dashboard with this meeting because the dashboard's an example of what the end product of a discussion and a thoughtful process around design and data architecture involving really big data and really fantastic data science can look like when it's sort of in a production phase. So we hope that you'll be able to engage with it and think about what that could mean in other contexts. So I'm not going to spend too much more time before I hand over to Carl, but really the other things that I need to do before I step away are just to provide a tiny bit of context on the Curtin Open Knowledge Initiative. We are a research project. We were established in 2018. And we generously call it a collaboration. No, our data science team is absolutely fabulous. So we have been hugely fortunate to sort of have come along at a time when other really fantastic, thoughtful people had been thinking about how structures might encourage cross-disciplinary collaboration. And Andrew Roll, who is a really fantastic chemist, had set up the Institute for Data Science with a very deliberate remit of ensuring that every faculty in the university would have access to data scientists and that those data scientists would be able to come and help researchers to think about how they could use new data science approaches in their work. And when we set up the Curtin Open Knowledge Initiative in 2017 and 2018, we were doing that at a moment where we had access then to this amazing data science infrastructure because we're at a science and engineering heavy university with some brilliant data science that's come out of radio astronomy and people who are used to working with very large data sets. And we were doing it in a space where we were being encouraged and invited to come in and to say, okay, how would you perhaps want to use these tools in the projects that you're doing? And we came along with our questions. We wanted to know, well, what does making things open change? And how would data about research and about universities, how could it fit into a world where we're thinking about an open knowledge agenda as an agenda that includes questions about who's being invited to speak, who's being invited to make knowledge, as well as questions about what's actually happening and what the shape of that knowledge is once it's been made open. So who's using it as well as who's making it. So we came with those critical questions and we were really fortunate in being able to engage once we'd sort of got started with these amazing, really experienced data scientists from very interesting backgrounds that we are lucky enough to sort of sit in buildings alongside. And that combined with other shifts that have happened in the global sort of cloud-based computing landscape, the availability of open data sets, and some really interesting work that's happened over a very long time around metadata and persistent identifiers, has meant that in I think this is now 2024, I think we checked recently, so we need to just change that. But our academic observatory workflows are now, I think we do rightly claim that they're now the world's most comprehensive set of data related to open research and open knowledge. And we really have data sets that are definitely better, we think, than the commercial data sets that are available, and we're able to start using those for really interesting things that we care about. Of course, our project, because we're that kind of research team, started with what's effectively a manifesto. It started, you know, when we began, we wanted to ensure that we were really trying our hardest to live our values, and so we started with a book sprint and an open access book that set out a set of things that we sort of were dreaming about as the beginning point of a project. So if anyone would like to have a look, please keep in mind it was a book sprint. We wrote it in a week, and it was what at that time we were dreaming of creating, but it now exists. And I think I've got to hand over to Carl.
Thanks, Lucy. So as Lucy mentioned, through collaborations and leveraging on the data capabilities at Curtin, we're able then to develop various tools, and one of those is the dashboard that you just had the QR code for, and that's the same QR code again. So we're going to do a little bit of playing around with the dashboard. So you can scan the QR code, or you can go to the link open.cohi.ac, and that will take you to the, hopefully that website. And so on this website, we got data about open access for about 225 countries and more than 52,000 institutions. And not putting anyone on the spot, let's go to, let's say, Sub-Saharan Africa. And we can, so there's various filters you can play with. Let's say, let's drag this up a little bit, and if we just apply that, yes, and you can see the countries that comes up, and let's say South Africa, and that will give you the open access data we got on South Africa, and we got things like whether it's publisher open, whether it's other platform open, or both, and a lot of time we spend on this open access over time chart, because very often we pick up very interesting events and stories that it's reflected on the timeline. For example, things like transformative agreements, historical event that affected the number of publications, the open access publications. So if you go search for your own country and your institution, you might find some interesting stories there. And so that's for countries, and there's various other interesting things to look at as well. For example, when we talk about other platforms, what are those platforms? And that's listed there. And so that's for countries. We can do a similar thing for institutions. Again, let's go, sorry, let me take that. Let's say country, and you can type a country in, let's say, again, South Africa. Okay. And again, let's say, let's increase the number of publications. And let's go apply. And I hope I can find, let's say, University of Cape Town. And then again, you can see all the different charts, the data that we got. And what's very interesting here also is you can actually download the data. So the data that create these charts, you can download them and then use them as you want. So it's a very interesting, a very useful dashboard, and I'm going to go back to then the slides. So I encourage you to play with that dashboard in your own time. And the dashboard is also used by various other people, including those of you that were in the workshops earlier in the week. You would have seen that it's embedded into the Africa Archive. And now, that's just one example of the project that we're involved in. So leveraging on the data infrastructure, we're also then able to ask different questions as well on a research perspective that maybe we weren't able to tackle in the past. For example, this is something we worked on called citation diversity. And what we basically have done is, instead of just asking how much is a paper cited, we are looking at going one step further and looking at who actually does the citations. And we think perhaps that's a more meaningful way to describe the impact of open access. Rather than just counting number of citations, we're looking at whether it has a wider impact. And, well, guess what? We found that on a very large scale, global scale, and because of the data we use, we can also slice and dice the data in terms of disciplines, in terms of years, in terms of various different ways we can group the data. And the outcome was we did find that open access output was able to reach more audience in terms of how it's been cited. And one thing we're also able to find was that there was different level of impact of that benefit. So open access, you benefit from open access in a way that it's cited more widely, but also that benefit is different from different regions. And that's something we're going to be exploring a little bit further as well as our research goes on. Okay, I'm going to try to finish off. So, just 2 minutes. So those are just 2 examples of things we've been involved in. But at the core of this, and as Lucy mentioned, at the core of this is a data infrastructure and a data workflow that integrates multiple data sources, open data and persistent identifiers. And those are very important things because we know that open data is getting better. It has greater coverage than commercial data sources. And also identifiers allows us to do that crosswalk between all the different data sets and linking them up. And so that plays the vital role of what we are doing in the Koki project. And that's why it's led to, we think that's why it led to many users being able to use our data. And I want to say that in this last few days, it's been very heartening to hear all the different initiatives that has been happening around the world. And at the same time, it was also reaffirming to Lucy and myself that more than ever, we're going to be needing open data infrastructures, processes, capabilities, and capacities to lend itself to all different types of diversity across outputs, regions, systems that can integrate different things, being flexible. So that is to support then to be inclusive, equitable, sustainable, and decolonizing, right? So leveraging on the advancement of the open data, to build new tools, exploring new research questions, increasing visibility, promotes diversity in knowledge creation and dissemination. What we need is a powerful tool. And I think that's what we're working for. And we often say for open access, we want to be as open as possible and as close as is necessary. And I want to say for a similar thing for, I guess, for data infrastructure, data workflows in the space, is that we want to be as diverse as possible, but also as united and as standardized as necessary, so that we can do this crosswalk between all the different data, linking them up to help us go forward. And I think that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lucy Montgomery and Dr. Huang, for giving us more information about the excellent work that you are doing using open data and also building that very helpful open access dashboard. I would like now to introduce Dr. Yuriko Gungula, who is the rector of Oscar Ribas University in Luanda, Angola. He will be making a presentation in Portuguese. Dr. Gungula, you can, thank you.
Bem, já fui alertado que tenho 15 minutos para falar devagar, para os tradutores realizarem bem o seu trabalho, para agradecer à Universidade de Cape Town, especialmente ao Dr. Regi, por ter permitido a presença da delegação angolana, liderada pela Secretária de Estado para a Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação, que para nós é muito gratificante, e para apresentar, então, o ponto de vista de Angola sobre os centros de inovação, as iniciativas que têm levado a cabo para o fortalecimento da ciência aberta, porque a realidade é totalmente diferente. Continuamos a realizar seminários onde são criados espaços de partilha de conhecimentos, onde ensinamos aprendendo. Provavelmente esta realidade é distinta de muitos países, porque sabemos bem que todos nós temos realidades muito diferentes. E quando falamos de centros de soluções ou inovações tecnológicas, ouvíamos a Andrea a falar de questões muito interessantes relacionadas com o financiamento, a sustentabilidade destas iniciativas. Provavelmente existem na Europa, América e outros contextos já espaços onde os estudantes, os investigadores praticam fazendo com iniciativas de laboratórios de fabricação digital, cujas soluções são partilhadas. E nós aproveitamos em Angola estes espaços também para fazer pequenos workshops, seminários, treinamentos para facilitar. E este processo tem sido liderado geralmente pelo Ministério do Ensino Superior, Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação. E são convidadas várias instituições para apresentarem resultados científicos, de inovação, de empreendedorismo em várias áreas, como a própria educação, a economia, a saúde. Mas, depois disso, onde são colocados estes resultados? A nossa ideia seria que esses resultados estivessem totalmente em acesso aberto, para permitir que as soluções sejam aplicadas nos nossos contextos. E a alternativa que temos encontrado é, através de revistas científicas de acesso aberto, sem fins lucrativos. E nós procuramos mapear aqui o que vimos ontem, as iniciativas da AJOL, da DOAGE, também do Grupo Cielo, que pouco se falou, mas também temos outras realidades a nível da Europa, onde encontram-se espaços para o financiamento de pequenas iniciativas para aumentar a capacidade nestas matérias. Com a rede ALIC, temos feito um trabalho excepcional, capacitando estudantes, investigadores, políticos. E aqui é preciso sublinhar que a presença da Secretária de Estado é um resultado desta ação coletiva, desta cooperação muito intencional. E estas iniciativas nos permitiram criar o primeiro repositório angolano de acesso aberto, que está em fase de consolidação. São iniciativas que são fortalecidas com outros passos que vemos a nível internacional, também espaços que fortalecem esta aliança. E nós vemos aqui passos significativos como o plano de ação de fortalecimento do acesso aberto, mais focado também para países europeus. E ontem, quando víamos a doutora Ana falando sobre a visibilidade da África e da Ásia nesta consulta global, isto me permitiu, durante a noite, reestruturar a apresentação. Mas como a moderadora já está a fazer sinais de que quer levantar, vamos acelerando. O que é que foi feito, então? Mapeamos 3 bases de dados essenciais para nós. Amostra intencional, espero que nem me perguntem porquê. Quisemos demonstrar rapidamente as revistas científicas que existem em Angola, em acesso aberto. Temos menos de 50 revistas em todo o país. E das poucas que existem ativas, intencionalmente colocamos a África do Sul aqui. Sobretudo para vermos a diferença que temos em Doage, Ajol e na Redalic. Ficaríamos tristes se o gráfico permanecesse assim como está, a África do Sul a liderar. Mas a ideia era exatamente esta. Os países que fazem fronteira com Angola. Como estamos nestas linhas? Aqui, Angola começa a ficar um bocadinho animada porque, apesar da sua inexperiência, os passos começam a dar sinais. Temos a Namíbia, temos a Zâmbia e temos o Congo, países que fazem fronteira com Angola. E também vemos a presença nestas bases de dados de acesso aberto, o que denota um apoio mais direcionado para os países do sul global e, especificamente, aqueles que mais necessidade têm deste apoio. Para termos uma noção clara de qual é a nossa visão, preferimos olhar para os países de língua oficial portuguesa. Podes perguntar, a Guiné Equatorial, apesar de ser o único país em África que fala espanhol, aderiu também a este grupo de países de língua oficial portuguesa. E vemos, então, a presença destas bases de dados em Cabo Verde, em Guiné-Bissau, em Moçambique, em São Tomé e Príncipe e em Guiné Equatorial. Então, justifica-se o facto de direcionarmos também as nossas atenções a estes países cuja necessidade é muito latente. Assim, de forma muito genérica, para evitar que este papel venha até mim, eu agradeço a todos pela atenção dispensada.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kungula. You helped us save 6 minutes. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Okay, I would like to call upon Miss Jill Klassen, who is the Scholarly Communications Manager here at the University of Cape Town Libraries. Please, Jill, you are welcome to give us your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For those of us who attended the 2 workshops this week, you would have had the privilege of having open journal systems and open monograph press demonstrated by Sai Maharaj, But the intention of this presentation is to give you a deep dive in the overview and hopefully rationale as to why we have the African Platform for Open Scholarship. So Raju and Badruddin assert, and I quote them, "What Africa seeks is the deconstruction of the debilitating scholarly ecosystem and develop an ecosystem that is inclusive and underpinned by social justice principles." The multi-tenant architecture of the African Platform for Open Scholarship is a contributor to this inclusive ecosystem that is driven by social justice. It encourages the academy to take ownership of their research by decommodifying, demonopolizing, and democratizing African scholarly content. The free access and open sharing of scholarship contribute to lessening the knowledge divide and increase opportunities for knowledge to be the public good that it should be. The multi-tenant architecture is a design approach that enables multi-user groups or tenants to have access to one instance of a software system. This architecture is much like an apartment complex where multiple tenants have their own apartment. All the apartments are private and secure, but share the same foundational infrastructure. The African Platform for Open Scholarship, or some of you would have heard the short form APOS, consists of PKP's open journal systems and open monograph press, which are available to any African institution, any African institution. So the institutions have their unique branding, their specific institutional colors, identifiable logos, and URLs. Their data is independent and configurations are kept separate. As a result, institutions can take pride in what they create and have the freedom to disseminate niche research topics for local, regional, and global reach, most importantly. Currently, there are 11 African institutions publishing on APOS, with 21 journals, and we have 3,000 articles published. Further, UCT Libraries Press has published 29 open monographs and textbooks, with UCT Press disseminating 64 book titles. Chinoya University of Technology in Zimbabwe and the University of Namibia will shortly be publishing open monographs in the new year. The foundational social justice principles driving the African Platform ensure that equitable access to knowledge is recognized, irrespective of financial and geographic location. This is important given there is an uneven internet connectivity across the continent. 37% of the African population has internet access, compared to the average across the world of 67%. Yet this 37% is unevenly spread throughout the continent. And it is for this very reason that a variety of content file formats are critical within these constraints. Embedded videos and audio clips can be viewed offline and used at the point of need to simulate research and learning environments. On the other hand, 76% of Africans are connecting to the internet via their smartphones. And this allows for scholarly content to be accessed with the options of HTML or EPUB file format for easier viewing on mobile devices. Additional equitable access features include text-to-speech capabilities and the implementation of accessible format standards. Given the inherent systemic inequalities that marginalize Global South research, the African platform provides scalability in the multi-tenant architecture. This affords the recognition of diverse perspectives by liberating many African research voices, including the next generation of researchers. By publishing on the platform, African research collectively contribute to dismantling the conscious and unconscious bias against Global South research. One of the African platform journals publishes on observations relating to biodiversity. Their focus is on creating opportunities for scientists and citizen scientists to publish on this niche research topic. The papers are not formally peer-reviewed, but experts on the editorial team take pride in maintaining a high academic standard. According to their 2023 report on the journey of their journal, it has published 389 papers since 2010, with 421 citations. There is provision for innovative opportunities to publish multilingual scholarship, thereby mainstreaming that research. For example, the reach of a Sesotho drama book for high schoolers, Dikeledi Hadewele Fatse, is global. Previously, these high schoolers had to read the prescribed book in English and have it translated in Sesotho. What's interesting is this drama book's reach is that it is not only in South Africa or even in our continent, but elsewhere across all the continents. Another example is an African journal that disseminates in French, which also has its reach globally. So the multi-tenant architecture practices cost effectiveness as the software is installed once with centralized upgrades and maintenance. All African institutions publish for free, eliminating the need to pay article processing charges. African authors now have the research freedom to finally address research needs of their own communities, compared to creating content for a global North society. In the country neighboring South Africa, Namibia, 2 of the 3 universities are publishing on the platform, as well as the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, and the National Commission on Research, Science and Technology. The largest university in the country, University of Namibia, has 5 open access journals. The Namibian University of Science and Technology has the oldest journal. They have published their journal since 2003. Initially, this journal was only accessible via EBSCOhost, but then flipped their model and decided to publish Diamond Open Access since 2022. This journal is now nearly ready to be included in the DOAJ. As there's increased efficiencies when publishing on the platform, the focus can be promoting the sharing of diverse African scholarship. 3 textbooks deserve the spotlight to highlight decolonized scholarly communication. The first that I'll highlight will be the textbook called Disability Studies in Inclusive Education, and they use universal design learning principles. For the authors, to have a contextual understanding of the curriculum was important, as decolonization often excludes disability inclusion. At the University of Cape Town, This textbook won this year's annual Open Textbook Award, and that's because they scored 10 out of 10 for pedagogical innovation, curriculum transformation, as well as had a variety of marginalized research voices in their textbook. And further, this textbook was shared with the most liberal Creative Commons license. The second textbook was written for the South African environment from the outset. The senior academic came to UCT libraries and indicated that his students were frustrated with learning with unrelatable consumer marketing trends from the global north. The senior author drew from expertise of academics, professionals, and students across the country and published a marketing textbook that could be taught primarily at South African universities. Yet, there's global reach, with download statistics of nearly 200,000 since being published in 2021, with increased attention, if you look at the graph, given to the textbook during the examination periods. The third textbook was written for South African law students by senior law students who really were the top achievers of their class. The features of this text-heavy subject in law includes workbooks for self-testing, as well as allows for narrated parts to grasp the complex concepts through listening. This textbook has demonstrated that it is used across the world, with nearly 282,000 downloads globally, accessed from 134 countries outside our continent. Usually this law subject has a high failure rate, but there's evidence that UCT's law students have had improved pass rates of this course compared to previous years before the textbook was published in 2020. UCT Libraries plays a pivotal role in providing capacity building training to each institution's academic library, as well as has engaging sessions with the editorial teams who want to publish on the platform. The sharing of scholarly communication skills and expertise capture the spirit of the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which freely benefits the entire continent, wanting to leave no one behind. As a domino effect, African academic libraries can use the train-the-trainer model and practice library publishing as a service to their own university community, thereby transforming their own scholarly collections. The Association of African Universities, as we have heard this week, has endorsed the African platform, encouraging other and more universities to publish their content through Diamond Open Access. There are immediate plans to move the platform to a more neutral hosting space with one of the regional RENs and collaborate with other Global South open publishing infrastructures. This will further increase visibility and discoverability, I hear you, Nadumo, of knowledge from the region. I promise 2 more minutes. So in summary, let's review the features of the multi-tenant architecture on the African platform for open scholarship. Participating African universities and research councils share a single instance of the platform, institutionally branding their own publishing space. It is easily scalable and cost-efficient as multiple institutions publish on the centralized infrastructure. Security measures are in place to ensure that each institution's scholarly data is isolated, preventing unauthorized access. There is centralized maintenance, updates and upgrades immediately, with faster redeployment as new institutions can easily be added. These technical features have a foundation to strengthen and support the platform. And this foundation is the underpinning of social justice principles, which include equitable access and dissemination of knowledge, as well as inclusive and diverse research voices that drive Diamond Open Access. There is no African platform without the driver of social justice. African content can flourish and grow through Diamond Open Access, publishing on the African Platform for Open Scholarship. This scholarship can be mainstreamed and no longer has to be sidelined on the periphery of knowledge production. Collectively, we contribute to increasing the rate of region-specific research productivity. And through the removal of financial barriers and the increased sharing of knowledge, African scholarship can participate in the scholarly bidirectional flow of knowledge from global south to north and back again. And this denorthernizes the research landscape and brings more balance to the global knowledge economy.
Thank you very much, Jill, for that inspiring presentation. We'll now move on to the questions. So if those who have questions can take their positions. Just to remind you, we heard from Costa Rica, from Andrea, about the journal management models that they've put in place. We heard from Professor Lucy Montgomery and Dr. Juan about what they're doing using open data, and also the dashboard that they have built to promote open access. We also heard from Dr. Gungula what Angola is doing, and the fact that they are very cognizant of the fact to consider the different realities and create spaces for students and lecturers. You've just heard from Jill a passionate presentation about the African Open Platform for Scholarship and how it supports different institutions to actually publish in open Diamond Access, and what already the impact of the platform has been. So I will start on that side. We have 6 minutes. We are supposed to stop at 9:50. So I'll ask the 3 people to be very quick in terms of their questions. Very succinct, please, and then we will respond to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Kathleen Shearer with CORE. This is actually a comment, I guess, for Dr. Carl and Dr. Lucy, because I think open data is very important, and I really think it's important what you're doing, but we have to realize that many publications in the Global South don't have DOIs, and therefore the picture that we're getting if we only use DOIs and the other persistent identifier is really an imperfect picture of the scholarly landscape. And I think we've been discussing this at CORE. The solution is really not that everybody should have a DOI, because it's actually just not within the means of many developing countries. So I just think we should all keep that in mind when we're doing an analysis of the landscape, that there's a lot of content missing. And I mentioned yesterday that we're working on a project at CORE to try to support local initiatives for persistent identifiers in Africa and Latin America, and hopefully we will have aggregations of those persistent identifiers that can feed into the analysis that you're doing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My name is Khomozo Moahi from the Botswana Open University. I just wanted to say that I've appreciated the fact that there are so many initiatives that are, ongoing in the space of diamond access. And one notable issue that I have is that we've just listened to Jill regarding the platform that is here at UCT. Yesterday, we listened to the CEO, I think it was, of UbuntuNet, talking about the African Archive, and I see what they're doing as being complementary, but at the same time, I'm not very clear as to the relationship between the two, because I'm sensing that there could be some duplication of effort, and at this point, we do need to be working together instead of, in parallel. But Jill did note that the platform is about to be transformed to an NREN. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe she could say a little bit more about the relationship between these two very important initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khomotso.
Thank you very much. My name is Chinwe Angunubi from Nigeria. Let me commend Lucy and Carl for the work, the great work, a lot of energy put into it and technology, but I really want to know the source of funding for this project. Then for Andrea, in the ecosystem, that the structure you have presented, I didn't hear the place. I could not place the place of the librarians there, and in the course of your providing the training model, you say that librarians are being trained. Why are they trained? Why are they trained for what? Because they have no place in the model. Then the general question for all of you and all of us, if you have a Diamond Open Access journal book and you have a CC BY non-commercial, and then somebody, because it's free open, and somebody goes ahead to download, collect all of them, and begin to sell, that is commercial, maybe giving access at a price, how would you know that is happening, one? And if you know that is happening, what would you do? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there was a general comment from COA, then Khomotso. The question is to you, Jill. Is there duplication? And then Chinwe asked about costs and had a specific question to Andrea on the role of librarians. Then the last question on how we would know if something wrong is actually going on. So, thank you.
Okay, I'll start off with the comments about the use of DOIs. I should acknowledge that we definitely know that's a limitation, and it's not just DOI because it's only Crossref DOIs, but it's also we also know there are many other agencies that assign DOIs and other identifiers. So what we want to do in our work is if it's develop a process, a capacity or infrastructure that allows different identifiers as well. So at the moment we are using Crossref DOIs, we are using raw IDs, we are using ORCID, and various other identifiers. So what we want to do, I guess, as a project and as maybe a community as a whole, is to think about how we can have a system that's flexible enough to allow us to have all these different identifiers, but also being able to link them across so that we have a system that is allowing us to integrate across these different sources. Yeah. And I think Lucy will answer the question about the funding.
Yeah, which brings us nicely to the question about funding, which is a fantastic question. It's a really important question, especially for us, because we were very fortunate in having a DVC for research who was interested in this topic, and in our university, our DVC for research has quite a lot of discretionary funding that can be allocated for strategic research projects. So this project came about because we had a new DVC for research. He said, come to us with your best idea. tell me what it is. If it's a great idea, I'll give you funding. We were the only team that showed up. Everyone else thought he was joking. He was serious. And so we came with our idea and we got some funding, and then we were able to keep that individual interested for quite a period. And that's really fantastic, but it's also a very dangerous way to fund infrastructure, because as we have experienced, that DVC for research has now left the university, and all of the risks that go with having something which is basically an infrastructure located inside a research centre as a research project are very, very obvious to us. But we don't have a clear solution for that. And I think that it's also a question for the community. So we're happily making things when we get the opportunity. We have a lot of research questions to ask. In this case, we have developed this dashboard as a kind of demonstrator for what's possible and as a way of showing people what can be done with big data sets, and also as a process of, for ourselves, exploring what it might mean to actually to take feedback from a community that have told us that they do care about being able to compare and track and see change over time. That is important. And what could we do that's not a ranking? How could we lay the dashboard out? I shared some flyers yesterday. We've got data scientists that are really interested in what does best practice look like. So we're working through that, but that's not a safe model for an infrastructure. And we don't have an answer for that, but we would love to hear anyone who does. And we're also very open to ideas and collaboration, if anyone has thoughts. So,
Thank you. Jill? Yeah.
I've been scouting the room and hoping that Prof. Madara is around, but he isn't. Yeah, I wrote to him this morning early, asking him if he was available, because I knew that, you know, when I present the platform, of course, he presented yesterday and he was amazing. So the initiatives that's happening with the Ubuntu Net Alliance, and then, of course, this one. So my response is that African scholarship needs to be visible, accessible, and discoverable. There is no one platform for that to take place. If the initiatives will encourage acceleration of knowledge production, magnificent. We are all for it. But of course, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So if we have pockets of skills because you are a well-researched university, you create a publishing initiative, and then another university, in effect, can't compete. They try and start it 1 year because they have some funding, and then they can't afterwards. So I think the purpose of ensuring that there's increased African knowledge production should be around how are we making our scholarship visible so that it can be built on, changed, reused, as well as then there can be cross-pollination between global north and global south. I don't see the competition, definitely not. It is really about how can there be a benefit to African scholarship, and you know, our needs, is it going to be addressed? And it can only be addressed, of course, if you find it. And Ubuntu Net Alliance, one of the regional research RENs, they have initiatives. They spoke, Prof. Madara spoke about it yesterday. Kathleen spoke about some initiatives yesterday, which I thought was also great. I had a librarian from Egypt this morning. She gave me a flyer saying, we are wanting to launch this initiative, and then a few others. my point is, as long as we don't reinvent the wheel, right? And so that, yeah, so harvesting needs to happen for the cross-pollination of knowledge. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Over to Andrea.
Hola. Que se me hizo la compañera. Nosotros estamos capacitando las bibliotecólogas específicamente para las revistas Semilla Diamante, para varias colaboraciones entre los editores y las bibliotecólogas o bibliotecólogos. Uno es en la curaduría de metadatos de los Open Journal Systems. Eso es obvio que las bibliotecólogas tienen el campo de experticia, ¿verdad? Otro es para que se coordinen. Latinoamérica tiene, a diferencia, por ejemplo, de Europa, condiciones diferentes para el depósito de datos de investigación. Entonces a ellas se les está formando para que le den soporte a las revistas Diamante, para que le colaboren en cómo los autores deben depositar los datos de investigación para entrelazarlos con los artículos, con los preprint también y con las revisiones por pares abiertas, porque algunas de nuestras revistas están intentando hacer revisión por pares abiertas. Entonces, digamos, esos son 4 ejemplos de los que nosotros estamos haciendo coordinaciones y colaboraciones entre bibliotecas y revistas Diamante.
Dr. Congula.
Bem, se temos revistas de acesso aberto, como saberemos que alguém possa comercializar e tirar proveito? Realmente é uma pergunta muito interessante, porque estamos a falar de princípios e valores muito fundamentais para nós. Oportunismo sempre existirá, mas é preciso termos uma consciência coletiva que todo o conhecimento feito, produzido com fundos públicos deve estar acessível para todos. E não haveria necessidade desta armadilha, se pode dizer. O risco existe, mas estamos a falar da formação de homens conscientes. O investimento foi destinado para um determinado fim e creio que a resposta está em cada um de nós. Lutemos todos para evitar que os oportunistas usem de um conhecimento disponível para todos para fins comerciais. Esta seria a síntese.
Okay, thank you very much. The last 2 questions, we might not have time to answer them fully, but let's hear them. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be quick and I'm going to ask in Spanish.
Okay.
Primero una pregunta y luego una reflexión. Voy a tratar de ser lo más rápida posible. Y hablo despacio además, durante la semana hemos escuchado muchas experiencias donde hemos terminado haciendo un ejercicio de cuantificación de cuánto nos costaría o quién debe dar el financiamiento. Y hemos visto ejemplos también de cómo lo que un artículo en una publicación por la vía comercial cuesta y cuánto podemos hacer desde una revista en acceso abierto Diamante con ese dinero. Entonces quería pedirle a los colegas de universidades que nos comenten cuánto pesa esto en la toma de decisiones sobre realmente convertirse en instituciones de acceso abierto Diamante. Esa sería mi pregunta y mi reflexión es la siguiente. No sé si ustedes recuerdan, yo creo que aquí debemos saber muchos geeks y nerds, una serie de los 90s que se llamaba Héroes, Heroes. Tenían una frase que decía, if you save the cheerleader, you'll save the world. En nuestra universidad, si yo parafraseo esto a nuestra experiencia con el acceso abierto, lo que encontramos es que si protegemos al editor, protegemos al acceso abierto. Entonces, mi invitación para todos es encuentren a quien tienen que proteger en sus instituciones y salven el acceso abierto. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hola, en español también. No es una pregunta en sí, en línea con lo que dijo mi amiga de Costa Rica recién y también Andrea, y se habla poco de números, de los valores del acceso abierto, del acceso diamante y de la producción científica en general. Lo que quiero acotar, Andrea dijo que cuesta $1.360 editar un número de una revista. Tenemos en Argentina el caso de una muy buena revista que está indizada en el Elsevier, a la que le paga $25.000 anuales para estar en el Elsevier indizada. Y además es una revista que cobra PC. Por lo tanto, para mí no es una revista de acceso abierto. Una revista de acceso abierto que va en contra de los propios principios de la OAI, que entre sus declaraciones y sus objetivos dice que el acceso abierto no debe tener barreras económicas. $25.000 anuales más 1.200 por artículo de APC claramente es una barrera económica. Me parece que eso también hay que ponerlo sobre la mesa. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Can I have one volunteer to respond from the, who would like to respond? Thank you. And then after Andrea, we close the session. Thank you.
Hay mucho que compartir de los costos de la vía diamante, porque definitivamente los ejemplos son muy diferentes, los que presentaron ayer y las proyecciones son muy diferentes de los que, por ejemplo, nosotros, en un caso específico en Costa Rica, y es probablemente muy cercano a Latinoamérica, difieren. Y eso es lo que yo les presenté en la vida real, y coincido con mi colega Liana, que las revistas las revistas tienen editores por detrás que son quienes sostienen toda la revista. Yo siempre, cuando discuto con las autoridades en general, les digo, si hay dinero para una PC, hay dinero para sostener una revista, y créanme que es muchísimo más barato sostener revistas que los APC. Yo, con recursos institucionales, estoy segurísimo que con lo que se paga una PC en Nature, que son 2.800 euros, ¿es verdad? No, o sea, con eso yo en una revista, en las universidades en las que yo colaboro, hacemos fiesta realmente. Hacemos un montón de cosas que evidentemente una PC no va a lograr. Creo que mi reflexión es esa. Yo no podría decirle que las revistas diamantes son gratis, jamás, hay que invertir, pero jamás van a ser lo que hemos pagado y lo que han abusado de nosotros las editoriales comerciales. Sí soy enfática, o sea, jamás. Y la subutilización, por ejemplo, de las bases de datos y la explotación a través de los APC o de los BPC.
Okay, thank you very much for this session. I think we've come to the end of the session. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to everybody. Thank you.